here you go. This is Emily C., my new bestie.
I hate the idea that someone out there hates me. I even hate thinking that Al-Qaeda hates me. I think if they got to know me, they wouldn't hate me.
This stole the show. Emily C. was phenomenal.
There's something you need to know.
What?
You're doing great.
Look at my baby. Here she is. Emily. 10 out of 10. Huge fan.
I see Emily C says 123. I trust her. She's really good.
Listen, Turtle. Listen, Turtle. You gotta watch your language. You gotta watch your language. I'm already live. So you need to follow the FCC guidelines. Shh.
She destroyed, left nothing in her path. It was so good.
Good morning, everybody. I haven't even looked at myself since I just dropped Carter off, and I got stuck in the school pickup drop-off line, and I was like, you guys, like, we gotta go. The sea creatures are waiting. But I'm here now. I'm a little frazzled. But good morning. I'm so happy that you guys are here today, and I'm excited because today's going to be a little bit different than like my normal content. We're not going to be solving a murder. We're not going to be exposing police corruption, but I picture, oh, that's cute. You're looking very Wizard of Oz. I'm Dorothy. Sometimes Norfolk County feels like we're in the land of Oz. But today is more like a chance for us to like do a little mental health good thing for ourselves. How that kind of relates to the Twitter world for me is I think that it is easier to tear other people down or like see the worst in other people when we're not feeling our best. And when we take the time to kind of like fill our own cup and do some things for ourselves, it is easier to see the best in other people and to kind of like keep this movement together and keep us focused on what we're working on. Mitchell Samuel asked if it's icy here. Yes. And like, it's a weird kind of ice because it's not, it's just, everything is slick. It's like not really frozen, but it's just slippery. Yeah. So weird morning. But I'm very, very, very excited. So I have a very good friend named Chris Duffy, who I taught with for 2 years together. And then we just stayed friends after that. And he wrote a book and it got released yesterday. And I want to share some of it with you today, because when I was reading it yesterday, it really did feel like the type of book that when you like the messages in it kind of stick with you for a while and give you a new perspective on things and just help you or help me yesterday to kind of like refocus on what makes me feel good and what makes me feel happy. And it's all about, so the subtitle is How Laughing More Can Make You Present, Creative, Connected, and Happy. So that's what we're going to talk about today. I want to start by showing you a quick clip of Duffy, or Chris, we'll call Chris, on ABC last night or 2 nights ago, talking about the book, just to give you a little bit of an overview.
Make yourself the butt of the joke. You even write, being willing to laugh at yourself doesn't just make you seem more competent, it also makes you appear sexier. How so? How so? And why is it important to be able to laugh at yourself?
Well, I think putting the sexy aside for one moment, I think it's really important to laugh at yourself because we all have this like idea that we're supposed to be perfect, that people will like us more if we're perfect. And in fact, nobody likes the perfect person, right? If you meet someone and they're like, I make $1 million a year, I have a six-pack and my kids both go to Harvard, you're probably not like, wow, I relate to that person. You're like, I'd never want to talk to that guy again. If you meet someone who's a little bit of a mess, but they're funny and they laugh about it, you want to connect more with them. And how it can make you sexier as well. In doing research for this book, I did a lot of reading of psychological studies, and one found that kind of across cultures, across countries, almost everyone on online dating apps says they want someone who has a great sense of humor. But when they drilled down into that, they found that what women meant when they said that is someone who I can laugh with. And what men meant when they said that is someone who laughs at my jokes. And I think that's totally wrong. So I think we need to think more of it in the way of like, how can we all have fun together? How can we have joy and laughter and more fun in our lives?
So that's just an overview from Chris about some of the research that he did for this book and what we're going to talk about in it. I did want to show you guys like proof of friendship. So here's Chris and I at an event for my school. Here we are with my two best friends from college at brunch in New York. Here's little tiny Miss Emily C. Those are my friends who I taught with. And here we are on a ski trip. So proof of friendship. And I did also want to say this won't be like fully trial deprived because I have some commercial breaks scheduled. And if we have time at the end, there's something I've been wanting to look back in Jen McCabe's 911 call that I thought we could do together if we have some time before I pick up Carter because it's a half day. So we're just going to read together. And I hope that this is enjoyable and relaxing for you. I want to start. I know people usually skip over the dedication page, but his dedication page is so sweet. So Chris is married to the most amazing woman, Molly, who I can talk about Molly another day too, because she has a whole bunch of cool things. They're like a very power couple. But she's done some really cool things that are also like mental health related. But usually you skip over the dedication page. But listen to his dedication page. He said, for Molly, the person I love laughing with more than anyone else, I'd also like to dedicate this book to the little snort noise that people make when they are laughing really, really hard. I love that noise. Thank you, little snort. How cute is that? Just cute. So the introduction to the book gives us a good overview of what this book is about and what we're going to learn about or focus on. But also, I helped inspire the story that he's about to tell. So let me tell you that backstory first. I was in college. I was the news editor and then the managing editor of my school newspaper. And I got really, really obsessed with newspapers. And if I hadn't become a teacher, I wanted to be a journalist. And when I started teaching, I started the school newspaper at my school. And I did it entirely on my own. It was like a very enormous undertaking. And it was kind of just like fly by the seat of my pants. I didn't have anybody I was like reporting to or telling me what to do. It was a lot. But one day while we were teaching, and the school that Chris and I taught at together was a charter school in Boston. The hours were 7:15 to 4:30. We went August 1st to the end of June. It was a lot. The whole thing was a lot. So we were just like overwhelmed in the trenches all day long. So one day he came to me like all frazzled and he was like, I need your help with something. And I was like, yeah, anything. I probably need your help too. And he was like, can Gary write food reviews for the newspaper? And I was like, yeah, I need to fill the space and say no more. Thank you. So the story that he's going to tell in the introduction of this book is about Gary in the school newspaper. I'm not going to there's no pictures or anything, so I don't need to show you guys the book, but this is the cover. So the introduction says, the funniest person I've ever met. The funniest person I've ever met was an 11-year-old named Gary. When I first met Gary, I was teaching a chaotic 5th grade class in Boston, and suffice to say, I was not in the best of mental places. Neither was Gary. As my student, he was terribly behaved. He would get easily frustrated and lash out. He rarely turned in his work on time. When it was a writing assignment, he often didn't turn it in at all. I really struggled with how to teach him. I could see his potential, but I couldn't get him to see it. We butted heads over and over in ways that often left him, me, and his mom all feeling angry and upset. Everything changed one day when Gary was complaining to me about how terrible the school lunches were. I was only half listening, thinking about when I'd eat my own lunch. But as I started paying closer attention, I realized that Gary's complaints weren't just well-founded, they were hilarious. He was basically roasting public school lunch. In a moment of inspiration, I asked him how he would feel about writing a column in the school newspaper. He could be our official food critic for the cafeteria. To my surprise, Gary agreed. I could barely believe it. Not only would Gary be voluntarily practicing his writing skills, but I would get a much needed infusion of comedy into my stressful teaching days. That first day of helping Gary, guys, we're having a disaster. Okay, sorry about that. That first day of helping Gary write his food column, I laughed more than I had in the previous 5 months combined. Here's an actual image of one of Gary's food reviews. And I don't know if you guys are really going to be able to see this, but that's from the newspaper. That's Gary. Oh, this makes me happy because I always like second guess doing things like this. He could be. My cat's name is Karen said Gary is now the editor of the New York Times Food, LOL. He might be. This was in 2010, 2011. So he could be on his way. Look out for Gary. Everything Gary wrote was pure gold, but I'd like to give you a taste of his work, some of my favorite food writing of all time. So this is one of his reviews from the paper. Whole wheat 2-cheese pizza with spinach and fresh fruit. This dish, originally from Italy, looks like cardboard when it is served. The least they could do is put some pepperoni on top. Just writing this makes me want to have some real pizza. Real pizza is pizza where you get to choose your toppings, and it contains lots of sauce and cheese. The smell of real pizza is like when you've just come out of the shower and used your sister's shampoo. It's so good. And then Chris says, tell me that doesn't make you want to eat some pizza. It's a dish originally from Italy. It smells like using your sister's shampoo for reasons that are not explained. Here's another masterpiece. Vegetarian Hot Pocket with carrots and fresh fruit. Warm and cheesy, saucy and meaty. That's how I would describe the taste of this dish. When served, it looked like a pizza roll, but bigger. Quote, it's really good because of all the delicious stuffing, says diner McCabe C. I found my Hot Pocket to be the highlight of my dining day. I'm puzzled by the fact that it's called vegetarian when it appears to contain pepperoni. Usually, I think vegetarian food is a disgrace. And then Chris says, there's so much to unpack here. But the first thing I want to point out is that he interviewed another kid at his lunch table to get a quote for the article. Talk about world-class journalism. Get this man a Pulitzer. It's incredible, too, that this was one of Gary's favorite all-time meals, despite him considering vegetarian food to be a disgrace. And of course, the question's on all our minds, was that pepperoni? And if not, what was it? Finally, here's a review that I'm sure sent at least one cafeteria worker into early retirement. Hold, please. Shampoo pizza. Chicken hot dogs with baked beans and whole wheat bun. I normally like baked beans, but not these. These looked like chocolate raisins, another food I normally like. However, I like my beans beany and pure. As for the chicken hot dog, when I first heard this was being served, I thought it was crazy talk. I don't know what a chicken hot dog is. It's a mystery. I know chicken, and this was not chicken. It wasn't pork either. When I hear the word chicken, I think you mean fried chicken or barbecue wings. I certainly didn't think a tube with brown spots that resembled a chew toy for a dog would be served. On the plus side, our server was very nice and generous. I imagine she was probably embarrassed to be serving this. I give this lunch 0 out of 5 stars. And then Chris says, notice the compassion in those final sentences. Gary wasn't out to hurt anyone's feelings. He was simply calling things as he saw them. And what he saw that day were brown, spotty tubes. I wasn't the only one who responded to these reviews. Gary won instant acclaim from his peers and other teachers. But it's possible that of everyone at that Boston elementary school, I needed them the most. And then now Chris uses that to talk about why he's writing this book. It says, humor lost and found. I am no longer a teacher. These days, I am the host of a TED podcast, How to Be a Better Human, which is an amazing podcast if you guys want some additional content, as well as a professional comedian and TV writer. But I'll never forget Gary and the joy of laughing with him. Before Gary started his illustrious career in cafeteria criticism, I was going through a rough patch. It was yet another freezing Boston winter, and somehow, amid the pressure and responsibility of teaching, I'd lost my sense of humor. Laughter didn't seem to fit into my life anywhere. I didn't have time for it. I was trying my best to prep lessons and grade homework and provide a safe place for students who were dealing with everything from homelessness to chronic illness to trauma. And because I was a new teacher, I was messing things up a lot. When I did, I'd often get an angry phone call from a parent chewing me out for my mistake. I had once been gregarious, always eager to share a collection of funny stories and observations with friends or family after a long day. And then he just tells a little anecdote I'm going to skip over. But of course, over the course of that gray Boston winter, the humorous version of myself became a more and more distant memory. I'd walk through the front door at the end of a taxing day and go straight to the couch, where I'd lie flat and blah, 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 read a book. Then one day, on my long bus ride home, I pulled Gary's latest reviews out of my backpack. I started laughing, at first quietly to myself, and then out loud. Something about them flipped a switch in me. Gary's cranky observations were the perfect antidote to my feelings of powerlessness and disconnection. That I had persuaded him to commit them to writing, and that inexplicably the school paper, me, had agreed to publish them, only added to the comedy of it all. It was a tiny moment, the kind that you could easily move past and then forget. But for me, it was an epiphany. This is what my life was missing. A life without humor, it seemed clear to me, wasn't much of a life at all. I needed that catharsis of laughter, the joy, connection, release. Laughing wouldn't erase the hard parts of my life. I still had an unruly classroom, frustrated parents, and close living quarters to contend with. But it gave me the energy and the hope to deal with them. Well, I should put up a thing. If I knew how to put up a banner, I would. The author is Chris Duffy, my friend. So I made a conscious decision to rebuild my sense of humor, to deliberately inject more laughter and comedy into my life, to transform the way I saw the world around me. It felt good, so much that I didn't even mind being the crazy person on the bus laughing out loud to himself. Making the choice to take humor seriously, to work to cultivate it, it changed everything for me. It would take me years to recognize the larger philosophy behind my epiphany, namely that a sense of humor is a portal to a better life. It's a life where the parts of yourself that are most ashamed are actually your greatest strengths. A life where you have deeper, more honest connections, which are also fun and easy. It's a life where you can walk into a crowded party and instead of immediately pouring panic sweat, know that whatever you say is going to lead to a great conversation. This book is about how to get there. Even when you win, you lose. Even when you lose, you win. That's the next subtype heading. What makes Gary's food reviews so delightful? Why do I love them so much? And I really do love them. If my house caught fire, those newspapers would be among the first things I'd grab. Gary's reviews make me laugh first and foremost because they're honest. He's not pulling any punches, but they're not mean or cruel. He wasn't trying to drive cafeteria workers to put down their spatulas. He was simply observing the absurdity of the world within the walls of our shared lunchroom, and then bravely asking, everyone else is seeing this too, right? Gary and his reviews exhibit some of the greatest strengths of a sense of humor. Having one allows you to point out details that others may have overlooked, acknowledge the truth of a situation, and create community along the way. Having a sense of humor isn't about denying reality. Gary's food reviews didn't change the way his chicken hot dog looked or tasted. It remained a 0 out of 5 stars. But they changed the way he experienced his reality. Humor is a lens that allows you to relieve some of the tension and weight of the world by finding delight and laughter in it. After he started writing reviews, when Gary went to eat lunch, it was always going to be a win. Either the food was good, obvious win, or it wasn't, and then he had fodder for his writing, also a win. Though it may not seem like it on the surface, any tough situation in life has the potential for humor. It was leaning into this mindset that shifted the way I saw the world. It didn't make my terrible room in my terrible apartment any bigger, but it did change the way I felt about it. Months later, when my roommates and I were finally ready to move out, I was sitting in my bedroom when I heard the real estate agent outside my door. She was explaining the apartment's layout to prospective tenants. Quote, "And this little bonus room is where you can store your trash can," she said. She then opened the door and was shocked to find me inside. "Oh my goodness, they've got someone living in the trash room." It wasn't one of my proudest moments, but it did make for a great laugh. Humor didn't change my long trudge of a commute either, but it did encourage me to more closely observe the people on public transit with me. It brought color and nuance back into the gray. It allowed me to take notice of the quirks I'd otherwise ignore, rather than being frustrated about yet another delay. I'd never forget when a Boston bus driver caught a glimpse of a man walking up to his bus, slammed the door shut, and zoomed past my stop, all while yelling, "I swore you'd never ride my bus again." I have no idea what history transpired between the two of them, but it was funny enough to make the half-mile walk home seem worth it. I love this part. Seeking out the humor in a situation doesn't mean denying the uncomfortable or unfunny aspects of reality. Far from it. This is where humor differs crucially from so-called toxic positivity, the pressure to put on a happy face no matter the circumstances. It isn't about finding the silver lining in every cloud. It's about acknowledging the clouds. Quote, "I cannot believe how many fucking clouds there are. It's like the sky is just clouds." Humor is a way of addressing reality while shifting our relationship to it. It reverse engineers despair into hope. And then he has a section where he defines humor. I'm going to just skip over a little bit of that. Actually, before we go any further, let's define exactly what we're talking about here. Jennifer Aker and Naomi Bagdonis, who teach at Stanford Graduate School of Business and co-authored a guide to using humor in business, distinguish between comedy, humor, and levity. Comedy is an art form. It's telling jokes and funny stories to a crowd. Humor is a practice. It's building the muscles to see, notice, and celebrate the delightful weirdness of our world. And levity is a mindset, being receptive to the laughter and joy that comes your way. I've so far spoken of these elements as though they're universal. The truth is, they're deeply personal and subjective. Humor, levity, and comedy are going to look different for you than they do for me. For all I know, you might find Gary's food reviews dry or silly or broad. There's nothing quite so tedious as explaining what makes a particular joke funny. In the words of E.B. White, explaining a joke is like dissecting a frog. Few people are interested, and the frog dies of it. So I'm not going to try. I'll murder as few frogs as possible in the pages ahead. So the point of this book is to show you how to develop your own sense of humor. I'm here to argue for the transformative power that laughter can have on your life. And then I'm going to skip over a little bit. We desperately need people with a good sense of humor. That was the sentence that got me where I was like, I need to bring this to the world of Twitter right now while everything was burning. I'm going to read that again. We desperately need more people with a good sense of humor. The single biggest misconception about a sense of humor is that you're either born with it or you're not. I couldn't disagree more. And while I'm not interested in helping you tell jokes, I'm very interested in helping you. And then he refers back to the part I skipped over. Okay. Basically, he wants to help you spark spontaneous laughter and joy in your life. Having a sense of humor is much broader than being good at comedy. It means not just that you are enjoying making other people laugh, but also that you want a life filled with laughter, even if you never tell a single traditional joke. I put a link to the book in the description of this video. Okay, I really love this part. And this is something that he referenced in that ABC interview. In his studies on dating and humor, the Canadian psychologist Rod A. Martin found that nearly all the heterosexual daters that he interviewed claimed to want a partner with a good sense of humor. But there was a catch. Although both sexes say they want a sense of humor, Martin told Scientific American, in our research, women interpreted this as someone who makes me laugh, and men wanted someone who laughs at my jokes. Let's not beat around the bush. My heterosexual brothers are completely missing the point. Having a sense of humor does not mean you're the funniest person in the room or the center of attention at all times. In fact, the skills needed to accomplish these goals are often indicative of selfish and toxic traits that lead to a deeply unhappy life. I can tell you from experience that people who claim they are the funniest are far from the most joyous people you'll ever meet. A good sense of humor is inherently generous. It means that you listen deeply and that when it's called for, you're willing to puncture tension and deflate self-seriousness with a laugh. Humor is about creating and appreciating connection, warmth, and joy. It signals a willingness to be vulnerable and honest with others. It's noticing the strangeness and absurdity of life and sharing it with those around you. Or maybe not even sharing it. You can enjoy the benefits of a sense of humor all on your own. No matter how you express it, a sense of humor is about being present in the moment. You'll never laugh hard if you're only half paying attention. The spiritual teacher Ram Dass, author of Be Here Now, and famously a proponent of living in the present, often said that meditation and presence could unlock a cosmic giggle. One of the most beautiful parts of humor is that it commands our full attention. Getting that cosmic giggle snaps us into the present, helps us lock in with the people we're communicating with, and shines a bright spotlight on where we are right now. Then he tells another story. Hold on. Okay. Being able to laugh at yourself, this part's important, is another crucial tool. At its most profound, humor allows you to grow a new relationship with your shortcomings. Laughing at your flaws, imperfections, and weirdness encourages self-acceptance. More than making peace with your flaws, laughing at yourself can help you become fonder of yourself. It's effective, research-backed, and more fun than writing self-affirmations and sticking them to your mirror. It's also less likely to earn you judgmental stares when a guest comes over and needs to use your bathroom. In addition to being present and laughing at yourself, humor requires that you put yourself out there and take social risks. Even just acknowledging your own foibles can feel risky. What you'll quickly find is that taking social risks, allowing yourself to occasionally look silly or foolish or vulnerable, isn't such risky business after all. In fact, you'll come across as more confident, capable, self-assured, and relatable. When we openly acknowledge our struggles and weaknesses, we're often shocked to learn how many people around us are dealing with the same issues. Creating the space to laugh at what you're struggling with makes you the kind of person that other people want to be around and can trust with their own imperfections. But it doesn't just have to be about laughing at yourself. All kinds of silliness and levity puncture the bubbles around us that say, don't talk to this person. They're very serious and unapproachable. A little mischievousness cracks the door open. Being playful and open to laughter makes you magnetic, and the practice of humor builds connections and community in a way that nothing else can. Over the course of this book, I'm going to take you across the globe to meet scientists, experts, and regular people who are changing the way we think about humor and its importance. We'll meet a team of neuroscientists who put musical improvisers into an MRI machine and found that as they improvised, the parts of their brain that normally monitor and patrol their behavior almost completely shut down. I needed this sentence. In other words, being creatively in the moment allows you to temporarily silence the anxious voice in your head, the sensor scanning your words and actions to make sure that you're doing things right. We'll visit an assisted living facility in Hong Kong where doctors were eager to improve the residents' quality of life, but hesitant to prescribe yet another drug. They offered instead a radical new approach, prescribing humor. And then they studied its effects. Was laughter really the best medicine? You can't argue with their results. The experimental group experienced significant decreases in pain and perceptions of loneliness, and significant increases in happiness and life satisfaction when compared to the control group. We'll hear from professional comedians, a Navy SEAL, kindergartners, Ivy League professors, a clown, critically acclaimed writers, presidential historians, and an encyclopedia editor about the surprising ways humor has encouraged innovation in their work and led to success in their professional and personal lives. And then everyone's life can be improved by the physical, philosophical, and perceptual shift that is a funnier life. This book will show you how to get there. And I mean you, no matter who you are and what your relationship to humor is. The idea that our sense of humor is innate or fixed is demonstrably false. When I first started teaching comedy, I thought that some people were just born funny and others didn't get the gene. But over more than a decade of working as a professional funny person, I've seen countless examples of both people. Both students in my classes and peers I met at open mic nights, going from painfully unfunny to hilarious. Now I believe that even the most dour, serious person can transform into joyful belly laughter. People can, yeah, you got that. Anyone can develop and strengthen their sense of humor. All you need to do is incorporate some simple and fun practices into your life. At the heart of building a sense of humor, There are 3 key tools that I described earlier: being present, laughing at yourself, and taking social risks. And then he goes into a little bit more. And I want to skip ahead just a little bit. So he talks now about noticing the small things around you. And he says, when you first move into a new house or apartment, you're attuned to the details. You notice the sounds of the pipes, the creaky spot on the floor, the way one corner seems to have been patched up in a slightly different shade of white paint. But then a few days in, that stuff fades out of your attention. That's just how things are. After moving into a new place, I have a 2-week period when I can put up art or decorations on a given wall. If I go past that time frame, in my mind, it becomes the blank wall. I can't hang up a picture over there. That's the blank wall. That's just how that wall is. It would look weird to put up photos there. Alternatively, imagine you're at a friend's house and you've asked to use their bathroom. It's always easier to notice strange, unusual details when you're outside of your own home. When you walk into someone else's bathroom, you immediately see all the ways that they've set up that space differently than you. How do they put the toilet paper on the roll? Do they do it correctly with the paper coming down over the top? Or like a degenerate, hanging down loose and wild in the back, like some kind of paper mullet? Do they have a little squatty potty stool, a bidet? Or do they have an old school thick plastic cushion on top of the toilet, as though it's intended for you to sit comfortably while you wait for the bus? Is there a pile of books and magazines? Are they disturbingly crinkled as though they've gotten wet and then air dried? This is the kind of stuff you see in someone else's place, but fail to notice in your own. It stands out. It's weird to you. And it is exactly these kinds of observations that let humor in. That's the attention and mental frame that creates a fertile soil for laughter to sprout. Humor almost always springs out of noticing what's off, odd, strange, or delightful when you pay close attention. All of which brings me to my first pillar of cultivating a humor mindset: being present. If we're going to benefit from the joy, creativity, and insight that humor can bring, our goal should be to maintain as often as possible this new bathroom frame of mind. Yeah, good. My toilet paper goes over the top too, not like a degenerate. I'm gonna skip ahead just a little bit because there was a couple more parts that I really wanted to kind of like bring to us today. Blue. Okay. Presence leads to laughter. Laughter leads to presence. The best part of strengthening the muscles of attention is that the cycle starts to build on itself. The more you're in the moment, the more you'll laugh. And that laughter in turn grounds you in the present. You clutch your sides, you close your eyes. While you're laughing really hard, you can't think about the length of your to-do list or the rude thing that your coworker said. That's one of the most beautiful parts of humor. It at once comes from being present and it reinforces your presence in the world. So much of modern life is about being efficient and effective, managing our countless responsibilities. We spend our days going from beds to phones to computers to phones to TVs to cars to tables to desks and back to beds. The first pillar of good humor, being present, is an attempt, if not to break that cycle entirely, then to build the muscle that lets you step back and observe it all. Maybe humor will come from acknowledging how little time or attention you give to noticing humor. Or maybe it will let you spot your own attention patterns, the automatic pilot that you switch on in your life without even realizing it. Strengthening your muscles of attention is a continual process, and we'll come back to it over the next chapters that follow. And then he kind of summarizes some stuff. The second pillar, I just put a big star at the top of this because I love this part. The second pillar, laughing at yourself. One day, when I was working as an elementary school teacher, I woke up with a huge zit right on my nose. I knew rationally that I should leave it alone, but I convinced myself that if I popped this pimple, it would be as though it had never been there. Of course, my plan backfired as soon as I popped the zit. Now, there was a giant red mark on the tip of my nose, more prominent and painful than it had ever been before. I told myself that no one would notice it. I could only see it because I had been staring at myself in the mirror for so long. Besides, I was already running late and needed to get out the door and off to school. I entered the cafeteria for my breakfast duty, supervising a table of kindergartners, my class. I had almost succeeded in convincing myself that the zit was no big deal when the first kid walked in, immediately pointed at my face and said, "You got pecked in the nose by a bird." That mental image transformed my embarrassment and self-consciousness into glee. The idea that I was being hunted by some sort of bloodthirsty nose seagull was a gift, something I got to share with my fellow teachers for the rest of the school day. I literally still remember that day. When we're able to laugh at ourselves and honestly name our imperfections and fallibilities, it takes away their power to shame us. It allows us to accept ourselves as we are. Even better, it makes other people like us more. It's also really hard to do. I certainly struggle with it. Here's another moment from my teaching career, one in which I completely failed at my own lesson. I was just out of college and working as a teaching fellow in an ESL class while living in a house of other teaching fellows from the same school. My friend Kristen, a genuinely hilarious person, was one of my housemates and closest friends. One day, I came home after a frustrating class, upset that my lessons hadn't gone according to plan, and irritated that I had a lot of grading to do that night. I was in a foul mood, feeling utterly humorless. Kristen tried to engage me and say hello, but I was short with her. I don't remember what I said, but it was snippy. Rather than being offended, as she had every right to be, she simply walked away, picked up her laptop, and returned with the song "Bad Day" by Daniel Powter blasting. If you're not familiar with that song, it was a 2005 pop hit all about, you guessed it, having a bad day. You had a bad day, you're taking one down, you sing a sad song just to turn it around. It's one of those songs that inexplicably gets stuck in your head for days after you hear it just once. And now Kristen was blaring it on repeat while following me around the house. Years later, I can admit, this is objectively hilarious. A self-serious man is acting pouty, so his friend enters the room with a hit song that perfectly encapsulates his current emotional state and proceeds to play it at full volume directly into his psyche. In the moment, though, I was furious. I stormed from room to room trying to escape Kristen and the sound of Daniel Powter's sweet and earnest voice, my blood boiling. I couldn't laugh at my ridiculousness in that moment. Not at all. Instead, I was irate that someone would treat me with anything other than absolute seriousness that I thought my situation deserved. It's easy to laugh at that version of myself from a distance of more than a decade. But we all have days where we're swept up in self-righteous indignation when we feel as though we've been given one bad turn after another, and when we refuse to let in the humor that we sorely need. Laura Blues, and now the song's stuck in my head. Like literally, he's right. It gets stuck in your head just without even hearing it, just thinking about it. And this was another section that I just thought like this was so important in the like chaos of Twitter yesterday for me. It says, "I'm funny how? I'm funny like I'm a clown." And I thought this because there were a whole bunch of mean people in my comments yesterday telling me, and Emily's not even funny. I don't even know why people think she's funny. Okay. Laughing at yourself involves admitting your imperfections. It means owning up to the fact that you are sometimes ridiculous. It's highlighting your weaknesses, flaws, and idiosyncrasies. If you haven't built up your humor muscles, this can be a terrifying prospect. After all, society urges us at our jobs, in our relationships, and in our social media posts to excel, to be perfect, and to do it effortlessly. But when you think about someone who is perceived as enviable or desirable, you probably don't imagine them burning their frozen pizza dinner, losing their temper at their toddler, or showing up late to an important meeting because they stayed up all night watching Property Brother reruns. I know I certainly don't. There's a fear in many of us that we might lose something if we laugh at ourselves. We'd have to admit that we're far short of perfect. Worse, it might not be just us laughing. Others might join in. Finally exposing us for the disgusting, unlovable failures that we are in our worst moments that we see ourselves as. Is there any worse feeling than that of being ridiculed by our peers or loved ones? That sense of shame is the stuff that our most wrenching childhood memories and that sense of shame is the stuff of our most wrenching childhood memories and our present day nightmares. It's little wonder that we might resist exposing ourselves in that way that could invite the mockery of others around us. But I'm here to tell you, when you put this skill into action and allow yourself to laugh at yourself, you will find that the opposite occurs. Not only does making light of your own shortcomings not diminish other people's view of you, it can charm them, making you seem only more confident and likable. A 2019 study emphasizes this point. Researchers discovered that when you're willing to laugh at your flaws, other people view those flaws as less important than if you'd addressed them more dryly. A study found that job candidates who revealed their limited math ability in a humorous manner, I can add and subtract, but geometry is where I draw the line, were perceived as better able to do math than those who disclosed the information in a serious manner. I can add and subtract, but I struggle with geometry. I might argue that if you're at a job interview where they're asking you about your addition and subtraction skills, things have already gone off the rails, but the point stands. And then okay, this is the part that he talked about in that interview. Being willing to laugh at yourself doesn't just make you seem more competent, it can also make you appear sexier. Get ready. In a study called Dissing Oneself versus Dissing Rivals, psychologists found that self-deprecating humor increased long-term sexual attractiveness. They speculated that your willingness to laugh at yourself can be an especially reliable indicator of not only general intelligence and verbal creativity, but also of moral virtues such as humility. And who doesn't want an intelligent, creative, and humble lover? There's some studies that I don't want to bore you with. Not that this is boring. Okay, so for this part, you have to know, so Chris, my foot just fell asleep. Over the past 10 years, I have carved out a little unexpected comedic niche for myself as a person who interviews academic experts on stage and on air. I've talked with everyone from Nobel laureates to MacArthur geniuses to the world's leading expert on raccoon intelligence. And the biggest superpower I've developed is being willing to say, I have no clue what you're talking about. With almost no exceptions, extremely smart people have been delighted and relieved when I admit that I don't understand even the most basic fundamentals of their field. I might say, I want to talk to you about your groundbreaking research in nuclear physics, but first, can you explain to me, what is physics? I know I was supposed to learn that in high school, but I was unfortunately not paying attention. This is my most useful tool in interviews. Geniuses don't have to stress over how to respectfully tell me that I'm full of crap. If I've already admitted that I know nothing, we can have an honest conversation. It's a lot like when you go to an event with a Q&A afterwards. There's a huge difference between a person who asks a genuine question and someone who walks up to the microphone to deliver a monologue intended to showcase their deep knowledge. Nobody likes the monologue guy. Admitting your ignorance allows space for actual conversation. And then this is probably the last section I'm going to read today, but I really love this part so much. He titled this section, Soy el tonto. Proudly owning the gaps in your understanding puts people at ease. If you admit that you're clueless, it's pretty obvious you're not a threat. If there's something immediately delightful about that. Maybe it calls us back to watching a baby struggle adorably to do basic tasks like walking and eating. If you're willing to look like a fool, those of us who are around you will drop our defenses a bit. Because how could you be a threat? You're just a big baby. I found that calling that out explicitly always gets a laugh. For example, I love to learn languages. It's something that I do for fun. In my opinion, nothing beats the rush of being able to communicate with someone across a linguistic divide. As a person who lives for praise, no comedy club standing ovation can ever compare to the overjoyed intensity of a group of 2 or 3 middle-aged ladies discovering that you're trying to speak their native tongue. And while I'm still in the early, I need to chill for a sec. Okay. When I'm still in the early phases of learning a language, I often stumble over even simple sentences. I do that in my native language. One of the biggest hurdles in language acquisition isn't grammar or vocabulary. It's forcing yourself to use the language with native speakers, even though you know you're likely to fall flat on your face. But here is where owning your ignorance can come in handy. If I show up in Mexico and present myself as a talented Spanish speaker, there's nowhere for me to go but down. I can only disappoint. So I take the opposite tact. One of the first Spanish phrases I memorized was, "Sorry, I'm a large baby with a beard." I have found that it almost always gets a laugh. And not only does it immediately convey how bad I am at the language, it does so in a way that makes people open up. I had similar success with Korean when I memorized a proverb about working hard to learn. In English, it translated literally to, even a dog could recite poetry after 3 years in a village schoolhouse. I would follow it up with, but I am still a puppy. That got me a big laugh, and in several Korean restaurants, a server happily brought me a free drink. That's my approach. You don't need to acknowledge your foolishness to get a positive reaction from native speakers in a language that's not your own. And then, hold on. There's so much delight to be found in laughing at yourself. It's a powerful tool for self-acceptance, and it can put others at ease. But like any tool, it has to be used properly. And then I think I'm going to stop there for today because this is around where I stopped yesterday, and I haven't read past that yet. So I'm going to put a bookmark. This is what I used to tell my students. I'm going to put a bookmark, and then we can revisit the rest of it on another day. But But I hope that you guys, we're not done yet, but I just am done reading for today. I hope that that was as kind of like fulfilling for you to kind of just recenter on like, not everything is so serious. We don't all need to be like at a 10 all the time, ready to like correct everybody and pounce and argue with every person who comes into our DMs. There are some things that like trolls say to me and people will be like, oh, that was mean. And I'm like, I mean, it was like, they were not wrong. Like, I'm not the funniest person in the world or whatever. You know what I mean? Like being able to kind of laugh at the absurdity of a lot of the things that we see in the real world and online, I think is a helpful way to not feel like you're ready to, they're like a shaken up soda can ready to explode at any moment. Because then we can all kind of just be focused on the productive things together. I'm glad that you guys thought that. That was a nice way to start the day. Thank you. JKC said that this was so good. Thank you, Emily. I really appreciate that. Let me do this. I'm going to play a little commercial break. And then I did want to, oh, I have time. Good. I did want to look at one thing on Jen McCabe's 911 call that I was hoping we could look at together. So let's do this. Yes, Michael Proctor is my best friend, the best man I've ever met in my life. No, I can't say these words out loud. Your Honor, please can I do it? Miss Gilman, my walk-up music. No ass bitch. She's a whack job. No chance she skates. She's fucked. And nothing but the truth, so help you God? I guess. Okay, yes, I told the FBI that I saw Higgins and Berkey in the Sallyport for a wildly long time because that was my memory at the time. But I destroyed that memory at an army base and I got an upgrade. A Sallyport is like a garage. The false memory that I created, I provided in good faith, but then I talked to the timeline and I saw evidence. That was 2.5 years ago. How am I supposed to remember? On June 21st, 1988 at 1:26 p.m., I began an intense year of internship and residency in emergency medicine. Hey, did someone tell you you should ask for a transcript? Yes, Mr. Alessi, when we were driving in the car. Were you holding hands with him? No. Can I see the transcript now? It doesn't exist. Moving on. Nails on a dog are horseshoe shape. I don't even know what that would look like. Maybe you should ask your friends in your dog bite community. In scissor tooth. I'll ask you one more time and then I'm coming up there. Did you see a video when Dr. Welcher put blue paint on his arm? Yes. You mean there isn't a methodology for identifying dog bites? Mr. Brennan, usually the methodology is saying to a patient, did a dog bite you? So you're saying there's no standard for identifying dog bites and therefore nobody has ever been bitten by a dog and therefore John was hit by Karen's Lexus. Do you have any memory issues? I love that woman. I think I need to go back to trial 1 and make some skits from trial 1 because now I'm just recycling the same ones over and over again. And there was some good stuff there. So that's on my to-do list. Okay, on to Jen's 911 call. And thanks for noticing me, which the little Eeyore picture just like warms my heart every time I see your comments. They said, then we're going to trash Jen. Ooh, fun. No, for once, this is what I wanted to do. I want to listen to the 911 call just from the operator's side of it and kind of just figure out like what is going on here. So like it kind of freaked me out. I live in these towns and hearing the way that they went through everything made me nervous if I ever have an emergency, because I was picturing like, okay, my emergency that my anxiety always focuses on is like Carter is choking and we have like seconds. Like I need help immediately. And the fact that it takes so long just to connect Jen to the proper channels made me very nervous. But then I also want to listen now that we don't know everything, but we know that Good, there's something weird. There's something very weird about him. And if you watched Melanie's show yesterday, she was looking at their reports and talking about, yes, I do need, see that now I'm 100% going to do this. Melanie was looking at the police reports that were written like that morning, like at 8:30, like they literally left the scene, went back and wrote their report. So they're the most accurate in terms of their recollection of what happened at the scene. And even then, Good left out the fact that Kerry had called earlier and talked to him. Like there's just some weird things. So I want to re-listen with our focus, instead of focusing on Jen's end of the call, focusing on like what is going on the police side of the call. And then maybe we can notice some things we haven't noticed before, or just kind of understand what happened better. This is from the channel Pink Dino Media. So thank you to Pink Dino Media for this.
No, please, what is your emergency?
Can you hear that?
Yes, I need someone to come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton, Mass. There's a man passed out in the snow.
Here in Canton, hold on. I'm going to transfer over to Canton, please. You call me. You connected to Norwood, okay?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
Okay, so the first thing is she's in Canton and it connected to 911 in Norwood. And he's like, okay, I'm going to transfer you over to Canton. And then I want to hear what he's about to say here.
That's the tower. That's right. Stay in the line.
It's at the tower. Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, I don't know why I did that.
It's the tower. That's right. Stay in the line.
It's the towers. Okay.
I think he's dead. You need, like,
this is the part I really want to get to.
Okay.
I'm going to transfer in the line. I'm going to transfer to Canton.
Okay.
Okay, and I know I said we're not focusing on Jen, but she had been at John's side for like 7 seconds. And she said, I think he's dead. And now she's back over at the car. So she's not even over there with John. That was just sketchy.
Where are the blankets? I don't see blankets, Carrie.
911, what's your emergency?
Okay, so now at this point, I'm just going to go back for 1 second. He said, I'm going to transfer you to Canton.
Where are the blankets? I don't see blankets, Carrie.
911, what's your emergency?
KY Heather just asked a good question that I should clarify. Yes. Canton and Norwood are next to each other, and 34 Fairview is right kind of at the and not like right at the border, but it is closer to the border of Norwood than like the center of Norwood. I mean, the center of Canton is.
Stay in the line.
I think he's dead. You need, like, you gotta get
So I'm going to transfer you to Canton.
I'm going to transfer to Canton.
Okay. I know. Where are the blankets? I don't see blankets, Carrie.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come immediately to 34 Fairview Road, Canton, Mass.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
Okay. And what did he say?
Immediately to 34 Fairview Road, blankets. I don't see blankets, Carrie.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come.
Like, hey, this is, who did he say that to? Something, this is Norwood. Did he say the person's name? Do you hear a name?
Blankets. I don't see blankets, Carrie.
911, what's your emergency?
Yes, I need someone to come immediately to 34 Fairview Road, Canton, Mass.
What's going on?
There's a guy unresponsive in the snow.
In the snow at 34?
He passed out, yes, 34, the Albert resident, yes. I just pulled up and found him.
Okay, 34 Fairview.
So why are they transferring her again? Like, this is the part that confused me. And I don't mean confusing in that like there's something sketchy going on, or like the cover up has already started or anything like that. So I don't want that to get misconstrued. It's just a weird like everything is weird. But so they transfer her to Canton, and then she says 34 Fairview, and then they start transferring her again.
34
Oh, they're
Fairview,
transferring her to
Canton, yeah.
medical. Okay.
911 is on recorded. Where's your emergency? Hello?
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton?
34 Fairview?
Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
Okay. Is he, blue at all?
Yeah, you've got to get here, okay?
Okay.
Also, did she just giggle?
Unresponsive in the snow.
Okay. Is he, blue at all?
Yeah, you've got to get
I
here.
think he's dead.
Okay.
I know we're not focused on Jen, but
Yes, I'm sorry. Can you come to 34 Fairview Road in Canton?
34 Fairview?
Yes, there's a man unresponsive in the snow.
Okay. Is he, blue at all?
Yeah, you've got to get here.
I think he's dead.
Okay. What's going on? Is he face down?
We just flipped him over.
Okay. And who's that in the background? Is that someone related?
So that's his girlfriend. His name is John Cleese.
Okay. How old is he?
John is 46
So
years old.
46. How long is he?
is this good now or not yet? This is the when they transfer her to the fire department first, or
Has he been outside?
I don't know. I don't know. He got out of the car and
Is he breathing?
a couple of hours. If he Carrie, if he, I don't know if he's breathing. There are two women trying to do his body heat, and they're hysterical.
Okay. Can you just try to ask him? I know it's tough, but we already have the fire department going. They just got to know.
Okay.
we already have the fire department, so that was that.
It doesn't seem to be breathing.
Okay. Do they know how to do CPR? Do they want to attempt CPR?
So is this good?
Yeah. No, I guess he's
Okay.
gone.
Okay. They don't feel comfortable doing so?
No, I think he's passed away.
Okay. All right. We got the fire department and the police department on the way. If everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you.
Yes,
And,
this is good.
If anything changes, you can give us a call back. Where are you guys outside?
Okay, this is the part I want to talk about. Okay, so this is good. Okay, this is the part I want to talk about. So and maybe there are some like dispatchers in the chat or something that can clarify, but my understanding from listening to like a few 911 calls on like TikTok and stuff is that 911 will stay on the line with you until help arrives, no matter what, right? They, I think for a number of reasons, like number one, to get more information, number two, if anything at the scene changes, and just number three, to make sure that they connect to the right place. So Good asks, do they know how to do CPR? And then she doesn't ask them, which that's a whole other side of why that's weird. But then he says, okay, if you're declining CPR, I'll hang up with you. And just, okay, so let's
know how to do CPR? Do they want to attempt CPR?
Can you guys do CPR?
Oh, she did ask. Okay.
No, I guess he's gone.
No.
Okay. They don't feel comfortable doing so?
No, I think he's passed away.
Okay. All right, we got the fire department and the police department on the way. If everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you. And
So if everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you. Okay.
If anything changes.
And I did just want to say that for me, the part that feels weird about this is in tandem with now having seen the video of Higgins walking around CPD at 1:30 in the morning. He goes into the dispatch room for 6 minutes. We don't have video of that, but we do know that Good was the one working in there at the time. So the reason why this part feels really sketchy to me is it feels like if you were in high school and you came home drunk and your parents are trying to talk to you and you're trying not to get in trouble. So you're just like, I'm so tired, I'm going to go to bed. And you're trying to end the conversation as quickly as possible because you don't want to blurt something out that you did wrong. Like I have never heard a 911 operator try so hard to get off the phone. And to me, it feels so like almost like he's freaking out right now. Like he knew, I don't know what he would have known. I can't imagine a world where Higgins walked into CPD and just said like, hey, something crazy went down. Like someone's dead, blah, blah, blah. But it feels like just something is off. Okay, so his first thing is, if everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up with you, which gives me the flip side of that, like the impression that if they weren't declining CPR, then he would stay on the line and like walk them through CPR. That's what I would assume, right? But let's see.
Changes, you can give us a call back. Where are you guys outside?
Oh, right out front. You'll see the car. I know. I'm on the phone with the ambulance. I know, honey. I know.
It's not
So, Carrie, you got to get off him, honey. Carrie, you got to get off of him.
You know if there was any alcohol or drugs involved?
They had been out.
They've been out drinking.
Yes, like I'm talking hours ago, maybe. And I think I don't know how long he's been in the snow.
Okay, is there any bleeding or anything? Maybe hit his head out?
Yes.
Also, a question that I just thought of. Have we ever seen like the notes from the 911 call? Like, isn't that something that usually ends up in a, like as a document where it's like, I picture like on TV shows where the dispatcher is sitting there kind of just typing like, no drugs involved, was out hours ago. Like, is that a report that we've ever seen or that should exist? Yes, we have seen it, or yes, it. Okay. Is that a thing that I can see? I should look that up. The notes are usually evidence, but are public record. Oh, yeah, they love a FOIA request. Okay, yes, there are notes. I want to look those up later. Okay. So now Good is actually finally asking like a few questions that I would expect a typical 911 operator to ask, even though he already tried to get off the phone once. So it was kind of like he tried his first attempt to like go upstairs to bed. Your parents are still asking you questions. And then you're like, okay, I'll say like, okay, Samantha was there tonight. It was fun. Okay, can I go now?
They've been out drinking.
Yes, like I'm talking hours ago, maybe. And I think I don't know how long he's been in the snow.
Okay, is there any bleeding or anything? Maybe hit his head out?
Yes, possibly. There seems to be bleeding in the face.
Okay, bleeding from the face. All right.
Yes.
How big's the pool of blood, if there is any?
Something's coming out of his nose, and one of the women is doing CPR.
Okay, one of the women is doing CPR?
Yes, they're both working on him.
All right, if she's doing CPR, just just give us a call back if he becomes responsive, right? But we're on the way.
Like that is the weirdest part of all to me. So you originally tried to get off the phone because you said, if everyone's declining CPR, then I'll hang up. But now they're not declining CPR. Now they're starting CPR. And he says, okay, I'll hang up with you. Why? So you hang up either way? You hang up if people are doing CPR and even if they're not doing CPR? So you just hang up. Like it's like an Uber. It's like you call and you say, here's the address, and you get your Uber, and then you hang up because there's no other information that you need. Like, what is the protocol? Lovely Flights, and maybe you really had to go to the bathroom. That's funny. But no, so nobody had arrived yet. We don't hear, Jen doesn't say, okay, the police are here. We don't hear any additional voices in the background or anything like that. So we hang up if you are doing CPR, and we hang up if you're not doing CPR, which kind of makes me think that Good doesn't know CPR. Because also in the reports that Melanie was reading yesterday, there was a part in Good's report where he wrote something like, I went to go get the AED machine. I think it was him. Actually, maybe not, because he's on the phone right now. Somebody else said, I went to go get the AED machine. And then like, luckily the fire department got there. Oh, it was Saraf then, because it was the first one. And it was kind of like, oh, phew. Like I was going to have to like do CPR, but then the fire department got there. I don't think they know CPR. This isn't part of like the cover up or anything. This is just the incompetence side of it.
Okay, bleeding from the face. All right.
Yeah.
And how big's the pool of blood, if there is any?
Something's coming out of his nose, and one of the women is doing CPR.
Okay, one of the women is doing CPR?
Yes, they're both working on him.
All right, if she's doing CPR, just let me, just give us a call back if he becomes responsive, right? But we're on the way.
Okay, thank you.
And then that's the end. And so Kim as Ladybug said, 911 call at 6:03 a.m. EMS arrived by 6:14 a.m. Canton is a small town. Like you can get across Canton in that amount of time. It just feels like not the timing that I would want in an emergency. But like that was a weird call, right? And I don't know, like I'm not drawing any conclusions from the weirdness of it that like already the police are part of the cover up. I think that's like it could possibly be, but that to me is like a little bit of a stretch because that would require a lot of people to kind of just like throw all of their morals and values out the window. Okay, 10 minutes is quick. In a very short amount of time without having any reason to. But it's just odd. And the other part to me that makes it feel weird is we talk a lot about Jen not going in the house, your sister's not answering the phone. And I agree that that is a very sketchy part of the whole scene. But to me, it's equally sketchy that none of the police officers there who respond to emergencies way more often than Jen McCabe ever has, who know how people typically react in emergencies. They know the kind of like looky-loos that come out and see what's happening anytime that there's an emergency. The fact that they're standing outside of the house, the police officers, Saraf and Mulaney and Good, and they are now out there with the lights going and the people screaming, and they know that they're at Brian Albert's house. And the fact that none of the lights turn on in the house that whole time, the fact that nobody from that house comes outside, shouldn't that raise a red flag for the police officers, maybe even before it pops into Jen McCabe's head that like, oh my gosh, wait, where's my sister? If this was not a cover up, why don't any of them go rushing into the house to go make sure that the Albert family is okay? There have been some stories I've seen on the news in the past few years of really deranged people like setting up an emergency scene in order to attack police officers or firefighters who respond to the scene. And if that is in my head, and I don't do this for a living, it's just weird to me for them to at some point become informed that John was a police officer. They say that happens like pretty quickly on the scene. And they don't worry that there was some kind of like deranged person who came here to take out police officers or who attacked John because he was a police officer. Like at a certain point, when you're at a house of a man that you know, and you know that he's emergency certified and all the things, and he's not coming out of the house, like why aren't they worried? Thanks for noticing me said, oh, come on, Em, they didn't have probable cause. And it's like, yeah, also, what is the protocol with that? Where if you're at a scene and then you're worried that, wait, something could have happened, can they just go in? I actually don't know. Maybe that's why. Kylie, mother of Duck, said cops are really bad about tunnel vision on arrival. Ask me how I know. the number of extra dead people we found is kind of a lot. Yes, that's what just something feels. I mean, I guess that makes sense. But then after something like 6:20, earlier than that, actually, like 6:18 or something, John is in the ambulance already. So there's not much more of a chaotic scene at that time because there's nothing else to attend to. And then all of them talk to Jen first. And okay, that's what I was wondering. Lisa Schreiber said, yes, first responders are allowed to enter a residence if they suspect someone is in danger. That's what I am feeling like I don't know where the line between in these moments, like corruption and cover up versus incompetence and just being bad at your job is. But they're hearing from Jen, who tells them he got out of the car. And then John is there. And none of them get worried about the Albert family, and maybe even none of them get worried about the Kelleher family across the street. Like they're looking over there too, and there's no lights turning on. They know both of these people very well. Like, are they not weirded out by the fact that their deputy chief didn't come outside? Are they worried about him? Like, if there's one dead cop in the middle of two police officers' homes, like, there's no part of your brain that's going like, oh my goodness, like, what about my other friends? Like, this is the part that just feels weird. Ginny, how do I say that? Ginny Oh, look, you have your Dorothy and I have my Dorothy. She said, what would lead them to believe there is no danger when there is a deceased man on your lawn? Like, yeah. Like, are they not worried that there's somebody else lurking in the bushes? Like, it just feels like I guess what I'm dancing around is one explanation for it, which I'm not saying it is the explanation, but one explanation for their odd behavior would be that they already knew what happened. And again, like I don't think I'm jumping there yet, because that requires a lot from them. But it would, if that were the case, if they did already know what happened or were given at least some amount of information, that would explain their weird behavior. There are other explanations. They could just be really bad at their jobs. But if Higgins had told Good something at 1:30 in the morning, that would explain his odd behavior on the call and on the scene. I guess that's what I'm dancing around. Yeah. Ms. Holmes said, Good had Deaver come in and replace him at dispatch so he could go to the scene of his friend's home where John died. Yeah, so that's another thing. Like, is it weird that Good didn't just dispatch Deaver to the scene? Or is that a normal thing to say, like, hey, come relieve me because this is a scene that requires a more senior officer? I guess that's another question I have, just not knowing the kind of protocol. Kylie, Mother of Ducks, said, cops tend to take cues from bystanders more than they should sometimes, hence complacency. That's interesting. So since Jen didn't freak out or go in the house, it didn't cross their minds if this isn't nefarious. That is a really, really interesting point. So if she had been like, oh my God, my sister's inside, like they haven't turned on the lights, then it kind of like directs their attention in the same way. But since she wasn't acting like that, that's an interesting point. And so it kind of wouldn't be either one. I mean, I guess that would lean towards incompetence more, where it's like, you would hope that they would be more of an expert on a scene than a bystander, but that's an interesting point. Let me see what else you guys are saying. Thanks for noticing me said, I mean, even if Karen hit him, Higgins would have seen the body and would know the houses were not involved. That's a good point too. So if we were in a conversation with the other side, that would be kind of a neutral fact then. 4D Man said, feels wild somehow that the distraught murder scene outside of 34 Fairview was the last time Karen Reed related to Jen McCabe and Carrie Roberts as friends, as local friends. It ended forever right there. Yeah. Poor Karen. I mean, those are the things I look back on too, where I'm like, the trauma that she was put through, it's like layers and layers and layers. Like, we forget what she just went through in that one little snippet of dash cam video that we saw is enough to like put somebody in therapy for life. And that was not even, she probably hasn't even gotten to addressing the feelings that she has still from that moment, because there's just been so much more trauma piled on top and on top and on top. They really, Muffy Donovan said, maybe they were scared Karen Reed would jump in a car and start murdering everyone else with her bumper. Yeah. Like that moment in the trial where Jen got really flustered at AJ's questioning and right before lunch and then said, I knew that there was what happened inside of the house had nothing to do with what happened outside of the house. Your client was running around. There were taillight pieces everywhere. What? You saw taillight pieces everywhere? You didn't like tell them? Okay, sure. Oh my goodness. Okay, incompetence, yeah. We saw that one already. Okay, I'm going back to the bottom. How big is Canton? It is, what was it? It's like a decent sized town, Canton. They talked about this the other day on the Four Ladies channel. And I don't remember what number they came up with. Canton, Mass had a population of approximately 24,000 in the 2020 census. The density is 1,300 people per square mile. I don't know about that. I have no context for that. But it's like a town that you could drive through in 10 minutes. Like you drive from one end to the other with lights and traffic and stuff in 10 minutes. It's not a big town. But it's not like a teeny tiny small town either. Yeah, Michelle said, for all the kind people that didn't watch the first trial, it's definitely worth the watch, especially the 34 Fairview defendants. Yes. Oh, maybe we'll do like a rewatch or something. Because I do want to go back and make skits from the first trial. So maybe that will inspire people who didn't see the first trial to go back and watch some of that testimony if you haven't. The first trial, though, is a hard watch. A few times I've been like, oh, I should go back and revisit the first trial testimony. And then you start to hear Lally droning on. And it's like, oh, this is why I don't watch the first trial. Like every single detail is like pulling teeth to get Lally to ask a question that just gets to the point. It's like, and so as you were approaching the house, per se, maybe what, if anyone, did you see when you were looking out with your eyes through the window that is transparent, so you were able to see anyone, if anyone was there, who if anyone, did you see? And it's like, Lally, for real? Come on. I do appreciate Lally for calling everyone, though. It kind of like, especially in comparison to Hank, who called, like, if Lally had structured the first trial the way that Hank did, there would be so much just about the like dynamics of the relationships and of the day that we just wouldn't understand. And not necessarily that like give us the answers to what happened, but that just help us kind of like paint a real clear picture of who these people were and what their kind of like typical dynamics are, what they like to do at the bars, how they act, how much they drink. Thunderhorse said, I don't lock my doors. I have a 90-pound bully. If you get through him, there's something waiting for you that you won't want to get through. It still makes me nervous. You should still lock your doors. Because your dog could be like Chloe one day and just sleep through absolutely everything. Sleep through absolutely everything. Yeah. Bella Trees Art said, want to see them all in orange jumpsuits behind bars. I want to, even before that, it's like, I want to see them testify. Like, I want to see them be questioned as suspects. Like when the other side is like, you want this, it's like, well, that we have a legal system for that. That would only be the consequence if they go through a trial and they're found guilty. And since Karen Reed was found not guilty, it seems there are some other people that could take her place in the defendant's chair and maybe should. And then in their testimony, we would find out more information and we would get more pieces to this puzzle that they're trying to hide about what happened. Which drink they order. It's in a tall, we learn a lot about the bars too, like about the types of glassware that they use, the types of tables that they have. There's a long table, there's a short table, there's the table next to the bar, there's a table to the side of it. Okay. Buffy said, I have Lally trauma. Yeah, I think we all do. Also, though, that Lally trauma, if I might add in, if you ever have trouble sleeping, if you just throw on Trial Channel and go to Lally's Lally's opening statement is like a touch more energetic than his baseline, but Lally's closing statement is like, so in conclusion, what I'll tell you is, actually, wait, I want to show you. Oops, I didn't mean to do that. She does do a great Jen McCabe impression. I have the last minute of Lally's closing statement, and it is, if you ever can't sleep, this is like the 1 minute trick. You just put this on, and then you're out cold for days. Oh my gosh. Do you think he bores himself? Because when I was Lally in the sidebars, it is I was like truly exhausted. At the end of the second batch of sidebars that Corey and I did, I was like, I don't even know how to explain how exhausted, like my brain was exhausted. Just thinking that slowly for so long is exhausting. Okay, watch. And then I need to go pick up Carter in a minute.
1 minute, Mr. Lally, wrap it up.
Yes, sir.
1 minute.
All consistent with pieces of.
And just think for 1 second, if you're in the middle of like your final like plea to the jury, you're like, I really want to make sure that they get this. And the judge says you have 1 more minute. Wouldn't you be like, okay, what I really want you guys to know is, she said, I hit him. There was taillight everywhere, blah, 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 blah. She was drunk. She hit him. She left him to die. But not Lally.
taillights that are found within his clothing.
He's on the clock.
Ms. Gilman, if I could. 605, this is what this vehicle looks like backing up at that speed for approximately that distance. There's another years and years.
He said, this is what it looked like backing up, and then the car just doesn't go anywhere.
605, this is what this vehicle looks like backing up at that speed for approximately that distance.
It's just a photo.
There's another years and years ago. Started practicing in North.
Okay. Bev said 1 minute. We're 44 seconds into the 1 minute. And then he just says, years and years ago. You have 16 seconds left. Years and years ago.
County in Braintree, what is now Quincy. And eventually became a far smarter man than myself. Eventually became President of the United States. His name was John Adams. John Adams once wrote, "Facts are stubborn things. And whatever may be our wishes, our inclinations, or the dictates of our passions, they cannot alter the state of the facts and the evidence. What the constellation of the facts and the evidence ineluctably demonstrate here is that the defendant drove her vehicle in reverse for 24.2 miles per hour for 62.5 feet, struck Mr. O'Keefe, causing those catastrophic head injuries, leaving him incapacitated and freezing to death."
Mr. Lally, I have to stop you. You've gone over. Okay.
I literally have one sentence on Joe.
I literally have one sentence. He hadn't even mentioned the medical examiner yet.
One sentence I'll give you.
From that facts and that evidence, I would submit ineluctably demonstrates her guilt on each of the indictments before you, and I would ask that you find it so. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Pep, all right. So that, unfortunately, that's my alarm to myself, but I have to pick up harder. Unfortunately, for those of you who hadn't watched the first trial yet, that's what you have to look forward to. But it is worth it. I need to go pick up Carter and get some stuff done today. But I really appreciate you guys being here this morning. The book that we read earlier, it's Humor Me by Chris Duffy. There's a link to it in the notes below. And I am really grateful to have had this time with you. Oh, wait, Ms. Holmes sent $5 and said, "Thank you, and Corey, for acting out the sidebars. It's unbelievable how Cannoni played co-prosecutor." I know, for real. And thank you. And I selfishly cannot wait for the next batch of sidebars because I had so much fun doing that with Corey. And now I'm like itching. And like the next ones, you guys, are going to be the inverted video and the Sally port. And there's some really good sidebars. So hopefully we'll get those in the next couple of weeks and we'll be able to do that again. You guys are seriously the best. Clayton John said, "I've been to prison 5 times. I know how shit goes down. I've heard so many people's bullshit. I feel like I now have 47,000 questions for you. Can we put a pin in this?" And I feel like you have some good stories that now I want to hear about. Thank you guys so much. Be safe out there. You guys are the best. Enjoy him.
John Keefe was 46 years old. Psst, Peg, time to cry, because remember, oopsies, you thought he was 45. John Keefe was not a buffalo on the prairie. When I was a kid, I used to throw boulders off of bridges. Ah, what a thrill. The dater is the dater. And tonight, I'm going on a dater with Shannon Welcher. We have no idea how the collision happened, but if you have any doubts left, remember this. My best friend, Jen McCabe, said Bella's mom. Of course Karen hit him. Speaking of Jen McCabe, she's a soccer mom. She doesn't use Signal like ARCA. She keeps everything right out in the open, like how long until John dies in the cold. Didn't need Michael Proctor. Tully is our Uber driver now. As the trial ends, we remember Barrows lied not, Kelly Dever. I know our times changed to whatever, but cops can't solve crime in bad weather.